Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers head coaching vacancy and who I would like to see hired, but most importantly, this is going to be put in a tier list. I had the 8 finalists for the job at the time of this recording. Jeff Hafley just accepted the Miami Dolphins head coaching position. He was originally a candidate for the Steelers job, but he is no longer there. So the 8 coaches that are rumored to be in the running, or however you want to put it, are the 8 candidates I will be talking about today. There will be a tier list. The tier list goes like this. Tier 3, absolutely do not hire. Tier 2, I'm a little concerned. I think they could use some more time working on other positions than being a head coach before they get this job, but I'm intrigued by them nevertheless. In Tier 1, these are guys I would hire. So let's jump into it. Starting off with Tier 3. To start out Tier 3, I have Brian Flores. Brian Flores is a coach I really like, and I think he's a great defensive mind. The problem is his tenure at Miami was so disastrous with just everything that went on behind the scenes. I can't say I want my team to hire him as a head coach. Now, the pauses are with Brian Flores is he's a very modernized defensive mind. He can bring new schemes, new philosophies to the Steelers, which they desperately need. The problem is, though, you really have to worry about how he handles the culture, something he struggled with in Miami. There have been many players that have spoken out against him. And to be fair, I do not believe that Miami organization was well put together. I've been a very vocal critic of Chris Grier. I have been saying he should have been fired years and years ago. I do not think the Dolphins ownership group is a competent one. But I look at Brian Flores and I just have this question in the back of my head. How can he handle being a head coach? Is he like all the other Belichick disciples, of which they don't understand what truly made Belichick, Bill Belichick? Is he a Josh McDaniels, where he's a great coordinator, but you give him the head coaching position and it's going to go up in flames? Those are the questions I have and I'm asking, and I just don't see it coming out to the point that I would be willing to hire him as a head coach. Would I be okay bringing him as defensive coordinator? Absolutely. Would he take that job? No idea. I would probably lean towards no. But you look at Brian Flores, and the one thing he definitely has going for him is his evolution of defense. The Minnesota Vikings defense made massive leaps forward under him compared to the previous guy. And he's a big reason as to why they've won so much in recent years. He could come in with into Pittsburgh and completely reinvigorate this defense. Probably get rid of some of the older guys. Bring in a new guard, younger, faster, athletic. Really reinvent that defense. But the problem is, what does it do offensively? You have to have a competent offense to win in the NFL. And we haven't seen Brian Flores put that together. His best quarterback he had at Miami was Ryan Fitzpatrick during his tenure. I understand Tua was there, but you watch them play, Fitz is clearly better. And you just really wonder, though, does he have the right mind to build out an offensive staff that can really help him contend for a Super Bowl? I lean towards no. I think he's a very defensive-minded guy that you worry about him being the head coach, how he'd handle the culture. And that's why I would just keep him as defensive coordinator than hiring him as a head coach. The next guy in Tier 3 is Ejiro Evero. Ejiro Evero is a name that very much intrigues me, but I'm still in the very much I would not hire yet camp because he hasn't been able to repeat the success he had at Denver. That Denver Broncos defense his year under there had a great pass rush, had great secondary. They were doing everything and keeping the Broncos in games they had no right to be in. And then he left. He went to Carolina, and we haven't seen that success be repeated yet. Now, to be fair, Carolina's defense does not have many guys. They clearly lack a number one pass rusher. They need better linebackers. The one position I kind of like on them are their cornerbacks, but even then, they're up and down. I really think the Panthers need a lot of help defensively, and it's hard to judge Evero because I think he just hasn't had that help. Now, we can look at him and think he did really good at Denver, and that gives you a lot of great hope. But here's the thing. We don't know how he views offensive football. He comes from the, now Dave Canales route, and Dave Canales comes from the Pete Carroll route. And Pete Carroll didn't technically have the best offensive minds. He wouldn't hire the best ones. And now we look at Dave Canales probably being his best offensive disciple, and he's a defensive guy, so I don't know how much he really put into that. But Dave Canales hasn't put a staff together. We don't know how his coordinators hire for coordinators once they're head coaches. We don't know. There's so much unknown there. Evero, I think, is a very talented coach. I think he's very smart. I think he's very bright. And I think he will become a head coach eventually. But I would say that's 2 years down the line once his Panthers defense is really built out and they're ready to play at a high level. And we can see, how does Evero adjust? How does he do deep in playoff games? We saw them against the Rams in the playoffs, and I think he did some really good stuff to make Stafford very uncomfortable, and it made me raise my eyebrow many a times. But the big thing is, we haven't seen it on a consistent basis, and until we see it, I don't think you can hire him as a head coach. This would be the one hire I would legitimately freak out about, because Mike McCarthy should not be a head coach in the year of 2026. Mike McCarthy won 1 Super Bowl with prime Aaron Rodgers, one of the best talents we have ever seen. Look at with what he did this year. He's not the same Rodgers he once was, but he was on time. He could hit the guys, and he also had some great throws. Now put that in a younger body that could really make some spectacular plays every single down. He wasn't limited by age. He wasn't limited by all his past injuries. He was still that effing good. And then imagine only going to 1 Super Bowl with him. Imagine only winning 1. Now, he beat the Steelers. Maybe that's why Rooney wants to bring him in for an interview. But I think it would be a horrible, horrible, horrible decision. I mean, just look at the game I'm showcasing on the screen right now. Does anyone remember this? It's when the Packers destroyed the Dallas Cowboys as the 7 seed going against the 2 seed in Dallas. This was an ass-kicking on all levels. I know people blame Dak. Hey, question. Where do you think Dak got his turnover risky plays from? Who do you think was calling the plays? Who do you think was designing those? Cough, cough, Mike McCarthy. Hey, question. Why was Dallas so undisciplined for all those years? They were always committing stupid penalties nonstop. Cough, cough, Mike McCarthy. He is not a good NFL coach. If the Steelers hire him, it would be a disaster on so many levels. And even worse, they hire him, it means they want to run it back most likely. Now, realistically, do I think Mike McCarthy is going to be the hire? No. I think this is them doing a solid for a Pittsburgh native, being like, hey, we'll bring you in for an interview. Let's see how you do. Maybe you can come in and be a consultant as an offensive guy or whatever to help our new head coach, because we're going to hire a brand new one, a guy who's never been a head coach. Let's see if you can help him maybe understand clock management, because that's a hard adjustment. But other than that, there is no reasonable reason Mike McCarthy should be getting an in-person interview, let alone an interview in general. The Titans didn't hire him. They hired Robert Saleh. The Titans didn't even have him as a Final 2 candidate. The Giants didn't have him as a Final 2 candidate. These are teams desperate and need to win to save the GM's job. They both said, no thanks, we don't want Mike McCarthy. That should tell you everything you need to know about why the Steelers should absolutely not hire Mike McCarthy. To kick off Tier 2, I have Jesse Minter, and Jesse Minter was so close to getting Tier 1. There's a reason why he didn't, and I'll explain that in a second. But I want to talk about the positives with Jesse Minter first, and that's he's truly one of the best defensive minds in the game of football. I watch his defense with the Chargers every single chance I can get. Why? Because he's always throwing out a new twist. He's always doing something creative that really makes you go, wow, they got something. And I look at this Chargers team. I don't see a lot of talent on it. This defense is very lacking talent. Their number one edge rusher is a very old Khalil Mack who battled injuries this year. Derwin James is getting up there in age. Their linebackers, they got one guy I like, that's around it. Their corners, I don't think I care for them too much either. There's so many players on this defense that I just look at them like, how are you this good? And then you watch the film. Then you watch with what Jesse Minter does. All the disguises he does. All the pressure packages he does. Everything he does just throws off offenses so much. It's incredible. I truly believe Jesse Minter will be one of the best defensive minds in the game of football for the next 20 years, most likely. But there's one thing going against him, And it's the same thing I knocked Evero for a little earlier. And that's that I don't know who he'll hire to be his coordinators. And that scares me. Because I look at the Harbaugh tree. I don't see a lot of guys I like. Would you be excited for Greg Roman coming to be the offensive coordinator? I wouldn't. In that no, thank you. And that's really where I'm at with Jesse Minter. I love his mind. I think he's so smart. I think he's so intelligent with what he can do defensively. But I just don't trust him with making the offensive coordinator hire because he's not coming from a system that really values the coordinator hire on offense. I mean, just look at the Chargers. They had Greg Roman, and they were really, really limiting Justin Herbert. And they're currently interviewing Arthur Smith to be the next offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. I don't think we want Arthur Smith back. And that's just the issue is he does so much good. And we want that type of coach. We want the coach that makes a difference defensively. But if he has an incompetent offense, we've all seen what that does with a great defense. You can have as good defense in the world. If your offense isn't competent, you have no chance to win in the NFL. And that's really where I'm at with Jesse Minter. Until I see who he would like as offense coordinator, until I see who he would like to put on his offensive staff, I will have to be doubtful about him becoming the Steelers' next head coach because it's just too big of a risk to make, in my opinion. But if he was to hire, I would still very much be intrigued. My last guy in Tier 2 is Clay Kubiak. Why? Well, quite simply, I'm very excited about Clay becoming an NFL head coach someday. I just don't know if the time is right yet. But I look at his offensive scheme coming from the Shanahan tree, it's a major plus. Plus, I think he has more say in this offense than a lot of people think. I'm not saying he calls the plays. I don't believe Kyle Shanahan would give that up completely. Maybe every now and then he'll get a play call in, but that's Kyle's baby, and Kyle ain't going to let anyone else do that. But I just look at a lot of these concepts the 49ers do. It's very modernized. It's very new. It's very un-Steelers-like right now. And that's something I would very much like to see them implement sooner rather than later. Then we also look at the fact he comes from an NFL family. His brother is the offense coordinator in Seattle. His dad was a legendary head coach, even winning a Super Bowl. There's so many boxes that tick it off for me as a Steelers candidate that I get excited about. And he is offensive-minded. Has he called plays for a long time? No. Has he called plays all that much? I doubt it. But you have a chance to have long-term success with a play caller sticking around every single year than not. Having him being in the room to call plays every year, we know with what he wants to do. We know how he's going to build the team, and we know he can evolve because, quite frankly, the Shanahan offense has evolved since he's gotten there. It's not as simplistic as it used to be. The running game is so much more advanced, and they utilize their running backs more in the receiving game. Now, maybe that's because CMC and you want to give him the ball as much as possible. But you look at Jaylen Warren, and I'm not saying Jaylen Warren's as good as CMC, but he's a very good receiving back, one of the better ones in the NFL, and you can utilize him in a bunch of fun formations and ways. I'd be really excited about Clay Kubiak being higher. The question is, we haven't seen him call plays every game throughout an entire game, so we don't know how he'll do at that. But if he was brought in to be the head coach, I'd have a strong feeling that the Steelers give very strong confidence from him. I expect this hire to be defensively. So if they were to go out and hire an offensive guy, it means he won over the room, he can lead people, and he's a bright young offensive mind that can come in the room and really change the Steelers' offense. Make them dynamic, make them fun, make them actually exciting and watchable. Something we've all been begging about for years. Do I think he's the hire? No. But if I had to guess, out of all the offensive guys, he's probably the most likely guy that they would hire offensively. Now, he's not in Tier 1. I do have an offensive guy rated higher than him. But I'd be very excited and very pumped about the Steelers hiring Clay Kubiak. To kick off Tier 1, I probably have a shock for most people. Anthony Weaver. Now, this is shocking because I've been a very harsh critic of the Miami Dolphins defense, really since Flores was let go. But I don't blame all of that on him because I think from top to bottom, there were issues in roster construction. He got there. What'd they do? They drafted Kenneth Grant, and they had some production. Now, there were questions about all of his personnel usage. I question that very much. But I still just look at that talent he was given, and I just give him a free pass. He had Jalen Phillips, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and that was really it for established guys that can play. Jordan Brooks thrived under him. He was really able to utilize Jordan Brooks at a high level. That was not a given. He did that as a coach. And then you also look at his history. He was with the Bills in 2013, who had a good defensive line. He was with the Texans from 2016 and 2019, who had good defensive lines. He was with Baltimore for many years before becoming the Dolphins defensive coordinator. They had good defensive lines. And he also played in the AFC North. That's a big thing I look at, is how do they handle AFC North football? Because that's not NFC West football. That's not even NFC North football, in my opinion. It's a different element altogether. These teams truly hate each other. And to understand that as a coach is a big plus, in my opinion. Then we also look at the fact many people are comping him to Dan Campbell. I'm a major Dan Campbell fan. And with how they comp him to it is culturally, he's great. And he also knows how to make hires. That was something I very much listened to about with people, is that he understands to hire offense, to prioritize offense. That made my ears perk up, because that's not a guarantee with most defensive coaches that they will prioritize offense. They will go to make that offensive hire. It's why he's one of the few tier 1 guys, because I trust him. If he's willing to listen to that, if he's willing to take those chances, he will hire those guys. That gets me excited compared with what we've had recently of a bit more conservative hiring on the offense side of the football. Then we also look at the fact, I really think he just is a Pittsburgh Steelers coach. Hard-nosed, defensively, played in the NFL, and just gets AFC North football. He ticks all those boxes to me, and it's just something that you go back and you listen to him. I'd recommend everyone to listen to a press conference of his. He wows you. He knows what to say. He knows how to fire you up. He was not someone going into this coaching search that I was expected to be all excited about. But the more I dug, the more I got excited. And I really started to think he could be a really great hire. Maybe he doesn't get hired this coaching cycle. Maybe it's next year's cycle. But I can guarantee you, within the next 2 years, Anthony Weaver will be a head coach. And I'd be more than excited if he was the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who hasn't fallen in love with Nate Scheelhaase as a potential Steelers head coach during this process? I don't know if he would get the job. I don't know how the Rooneys would view him. I don't know how Omar Khan would view him. But I view him pretty high. Why? Because he comes from the Sean McVay tree. That's a big plus. But also, he has, in my opinion, a very new style offense. And listening to him, I believe he can command a room. I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that he wouldn't be able to be a head coach and really come into the room and command people. And he's part of this Rams offense that's so fun and dynamic. Puka Nacua is used in so many different fun ways. And he is a pass game coordinator, so I'm assuming he's got a big part of that. But look at how they really do offense. They don't run it in on the 1 yard line. They'll throw a quick pass to Devontae Adams. Why? Because they take advantage of matchups in the red zone, something the Steelers need to do. What happens when they use a running back? Well, they typically do very well. And the Rams structure their offense that their running backs, their rookie year, they don't do much. They have so much to learn. But after that point, they develop, they get the offense, and they become immediate breakout players. Kyren Williams was a nobody when he was drafted. He's one of the best running backs in the league. Blake Corum is a great second back who's in his second year and looks really good. And they have Jarquez Hunter, a rookie from Auburn, who's yet to see the field. But I have high hopes for him. And then we just look at how they utilize their tight end room. Probably the deepest tight end room in the NFL. They have blocking tight ends, they have receiving tight ends, and they get the balls to them all the time. It is phenomenally well constructed, and they become impact players. Pat Freiermuth would be amazing in this type of offense. Now, we have to have the question of what do they do defensively, and Scheelhaase hasn't called plays at the NFL level. So how do we view him? What can he do? Well, he at least is calling plays. It was at the college level at Iowa State. And the one thing I noticed really because, well, I'm a psychopath. I went back and watched Iowa State football games with him as the offensive coordinator, and I noticed that he got a lot more confidence as the season progressed, and he got a lot better. And also, they had some running backs out during his time at Iowa State that were pretty good. Checks notes. Oh, David Montgomery, great back. Breece Hall, great back. He knows how to take advantage of the running game. He knows how to develop running backs, and I think he's a big part of the Rams' rushing attack plan, which is why I really highlighted the running backs a little bit ago. I really do like Shieldhouse as a coaching candidate. Do I have concerns about him calling plays at the NFL level? Absolutely. You'd be foolish not to. But I believe he can do so. You listen to him speak. He knows the game of football. He knows how to attack certain areas. He knows how to cause matchup nightmares. These are all important things you need in the NFL, especially in the red zone where you need to score touchdowns. And you just look at him coming off the McVay tree. It is such a major positive boost because Sean McVay is one of the best offensive minds the game has ever seen. And most of his coaches turn out pretty good. And that's just a big thing I look at with Nate Shieldhouse is he comes from a tree that constantly produces great coaches, and he kind of has that acumen that you really compare him more to Sean McVay than, say, another coordinator that left Sean McVay and Zach Taylor. You listen to him and Zach Taylor speak, one clearly knows more than the other, and I'll put that nicely, and it ain't the Bengals head coach. I really think Shieldhouse will be a head coach sooner than later. It's probably not going to be this year, looking at every opening that's being filled, but man, whoever does hire Nate Shieldhouse is getting a home run hire, and I would love for it to be the Steelers. The last guy I'm talking about today is most likely the odds-on favorite to get the job in Chris Shula. Now, Chris Shula has been trending for this really ever since Mike Tomlin stepped down, but even before that, I would say, with Albert Breer publishing an article to watch out for Chris Shula and the Steelers. Albert Breer is pretty good at this head coaching stuff. He knows this stuff. He knows what's going on in these worlds. So when he said that, my eyebrows raised up. So back then, I started deep dive into Chris Shula. And there is a concern with hiring a defensive coach as a head coach. Absolutely. It's how does the offense stay consistent if you are good? Your coaches will be hired away. How do you plan to handle that? Well, he comes from the Sean McVay tree, which gives me a lot of hope that he'll just take guys up the Sean McVay tree. Like we look at Nate Shieldhouse, a guy I just talked about and raved about. There's a good chance he would bring Shieldhouse over with him to be the offensive coordinator while he's the head coach. And you would probably lose Shieldhouse to become a head coach at some point. Yes, but you can just go right back to that McVay tree and start plucking again and just keeping those guys in. I really do like Shula's defense. I think he really prioritized turnovers. And turnovers, I don't think make a great defense. If you can have a great defense that's functioning on all levels and then create turnovers, you have something special. And he's not doing it with all these high round picks. The Rams have done a very good job drafting, but Chris Shula's done a good job of putting him in the right position to succeed. Jared Verse is a great bull rusher. He's a great power rusher. Someone you just watch and think, wow, he is violent. They have good interior defensive line play. Now, do you have some questions about the run game? Absolutely. But again, the Rams haven't really invested a lot of first-round picks in this defense because they haven't had a lot. When they've drafted in the first round, they drafted Jared Verse. Well, Chris Shula did wonders with him. Braden Fisk, a defensive lineman from Florida State that drafted in the second round to go with Jared Verse, has done very, very well. I really do look at this Rams defense, and I'm impressed with how much they have done to really build out this team. Like you look at their secondary, for example. Are there really that many guys in the secondary you like? They maybe have some good safeties, but their corners you tend to really get excited about. Emmanuel Forbes was a first-round bust that no one thought would do anything in the league after Washington, or even when he was drafted to Washington because he's so small. But you look at the job he's done, and it gets you very excited. And then you think about this. He is the grandson of one of the greatest coaches of all time in Don Shula. Now, his dad and uncle, not the best head coaches, so maybe the family line is not the best thing to look at. But I will get excited for Chris Shula because he'll modernize the Steelers organization. It's why I have both him and Shieldhouse in Tier 1, because I feel like they'd very much come in and force the Steelers to adapt, force the change, because the Rams have one of the best front offices in the NFL. The Rams have one of the best staffs in the NFL. Why? Because they're modern. They value analytics. They value everything that it really takes to win in the NFL today. Something the Steelers haven't really invested in, haven't really put a focus on. You bring one of those two guys in, I really do think that changes, and they will be adapted to the normal times, the modern times. Instead of trying to put a square peg in a round hole, they'll be putting a round peg in a round hole, which sounds so amazing. I really do think that Shula will be the hire. It's why I saved him for last. It's why I'm talking about him so glowingly, and why I think he is an important hire for the Steelers. Will it work out? I have no idea, because predicting if a head coach works or not, it's like flipping a coin, 50-50 chance on if it will work or not. Some coaches you have a stronger feeling for, but others you just don't. And I will say this, Shula's family line gets me excited, and his defense with how they play, with the little talent they have, makes me very intrigued to see with what he can do with the Steelers. And I will say this, no matter who the head coach is, Steelers fans, you better be ready for some people to leave. Because if Shula's brought in, he's going to want to change this defense. And that's going to just happen. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you share this, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you have any opinions on this video or the Steelers head coaching search in general, go down in the comment section. Tell me with what you think, and tell me the coach you're excited about, who you want to see them hire, or maybe just come in and bring in for a last-second interview. I'd love to hear it. And last but certainly not least, here we go, Steelers.